Welcome to the Tech Quarterback Show. I'm your host, Brent Chapman. This is the show that gives you a front row seat inside the huddle with your company's senior technology executive, or as I would say, your technology quarterback. The people driving innovation, building teams, and keeping business moving forward. And today we're talking about one of the most exciting areas shaping the future of technology and work moving forward: mobility and IoT. From field operations and satellite connectivity to how technology is empowering teams in the most remote areas of the country. So joining me to discuss that and more, from Ward Electric in Longmont, Colorado, Chief Information Officer Deren Hurlie.
What up?
Deren,
it's awesome.
Welcome to the show, Deren. Have you had a PA introduction like that before?
No, my son has when he was announced at Supercross. So he has, but I have not.
That with that level of vigor.
Oh yeah, with that over the jumbotron.
You could do his good because he's got the right.
Yeah,
I could do.
He was over the jumbotron with the guy from Supercross. And your Monster Energy, Deren Hurlie.
Before we get into all the cool mobility stuff, Deren, I want to start with your background. You've got a really cool, unique story. So I have to start with this. 20-ish years playing semi-pro softball. That's interesting. It's impressive. Just tell me a little bit about that.
So growing up, obviously I played baseball and ice hockey, and that baseball transitioned into, beer league softball with your buddies, right? Like everybody does. And I was playing in a local league, and one of these guys came up to me and asked me, "Hey, you want to try out for my softball team?" And I said, who tries out for a softball team?
Is it how many beers you can drink in an hour or something? Is that the tryout?
Exactly. So I said yes, because it sounded fun. He said there was tournaments you would play in, travel around the country and play against high caliber, players. So it intrigued me. So I went to this tryout, and my game at the time was hitting home runs. I could get up and pretty much hit a home run anytime I wanted. When I got to this tryout, they said there was only 2 home runs allowed, and then they were outs. So they wanted me to hit a line drive into the field without hitting it over the fence. And I'm like, this is the dumbest league I've ever heard in my life. I want to hit home runs. But it turns out it's obviously very competitive, and you have to learn how to score runs without hitting the home runs, because you only get 2 for the whole game. And then they were outs. And that was the D level that I started at. And I worked my way all the way up to playing A in the conference, where you travel around the country and you play conference USSSA slow pitch softball. And it's a point system. There's a World Series at the end of the year, and I did it for about 25 years.
Wow. First of all, it's slow pitch, meaning it's underhand, like slow pitch, right? So a guy that's good at this can literally smash the ball out of the park every time.
Yes. Yep, they can.
It's almost harder not to hit a home run than it is to hit a home run.
And that's what happens a lot of times. The guys miss, we call it a miss hit. So he gets up and he mishits the ball by accident and cuts it 300 feet, and it goes out. And now we just wasted a home run on the solo. So we would call him, Han Solo would be his nickname.
You can accidentally hit a home run, and that's punitive to your team. Now that's an
you hit a home run, you put your head down and you walk into the dugout and everyone gets mad at you.
What has competitive softball taught you about leadership, teamwork, staying sharp that applies to your job as a CIO?
So I could say that all aspects of sport have played a huge impact in me becoming a leader in this role. So coming from a very big sports background like yourself too, I've always been putting in that hard work. I was not the tallest guy in the team. I was not always the biggest guy in the team. So having and putting in the extra hard work always making the sacrifices to take extra batting practice, to take all those things, to want to be the best player on the team and to compete against these guys that were, all college, and some of them were ex-professional players. I played against Jose Canseco and his twin brother Ozzy Canseco.
That's awesome.
And these are big guys. So in order for me to do that, I was lifting a lot of weights, real strict on the diet, and then, trying to get that power. And then, I didn't have the natural height that these guys had. So, I had to work other ways to make up for that. So it's a lot of leadership. I did it for a long time. I was a captain on a lot of the teams.
That's awesome.
The camaraderie, the building that team chemistry is what I bring to the teams that I have now that work for me. It's having that team chemistry, knowing that it takes everybody on the team to get the wins, and that's not just a sports thing. That's here in the technology world. Without these guys that I have that are on my team, we wouldn't be successful. So,
well, and I think that's an interesting point to kind of talk about, which are just to restate, which is being a CIO, working in a corporate environment is a team sport. Basically, it's like with you're kind of in your role, you're the captain or coach, I guess, in a way, but it's like without the team doing each one of their jobs and their functions effectively, the team itself isn't successful and can't win championships. So now, Deren, if that wasn't enough, playing professional or semi-professional softball, you were also a competitive bodybuilder for 7 years. Now, that's a different kind of discipline. What did bodybuilding, well, first tell us a little bit about bodybuilding, and then tell us about what did that teach you about focus, preparation, being resilient, and then how does that kind of translate into how you operate in your role today?
Yeah, so when I graduated high school, I was 90 pounds. I was not a big guy. I'm about 5'5". Just kind of got tired of being the little guy in one sense.
Is that with heels on? 5'5" with heels on?
With Jordans. With Jordans. That's why I only wear Jordans. So basically, I went into the gym with one of my buddies. We started working out, and it turned into, let me get to this part. Every aspect of my life, if I tackle something, whether it's my career, whether it's work, whether it's sports, whatever it is, I want to always try to be the best. So when I started lifting, I wanted to then see how far I could take that and start competing. So then it became just one of those things, just like the drive in softball. I wanted to be the best softball player I could be. I wanted to be the best CIO that I can be. It was the same thing with bodybuilding. So I started lifting, I started researching and training, and that's where, a lot of that does tie into what I do now, the constant researching and learning. And then the drive and the passion is something I feel like you can't teach, really, drive and passion. But you can research and learn everything. And the more you're going to put into it, the more you're going to get out of it. And it was just a whole lot of learning and eating 7,000 calories a day, the discipline, the waking up in the morning, setting alarm clocks just to eat and then go back to sleep. It's very disciplined, and
it's a very discipline heavy sport. And I asked that question from, it's discipline from eating and nutrition, but then it's discipline. I assume that to gain the muscle and the mass, it's not so much, it's more just about the repetition, right? And being consistent about it. And obviously having the right plans and the right coaches to do those things, but it's very discipline heavy and just continuing to do that.
And there's a lot of science that people don't understand that go along with it too. So you have your off seasons where you're bulking and you're eating a lot of calories. You're purposely putting on extra weight, knowing that when the show comes, you're going to strip a lot of that weight off. So I would weigh 210 pounds in the off season. And then for show, I would diet down to 178 and a quarter. So when I was standing on stage, I was 178. So you would walk around at 210, but by the time you dehydrate, by the time you diet and you shrink everything down, you're 178 and a quarter on stage. And I was a middleweight at that time.
Wow, that's incredible. I'm just thinking the discipline of just me to get up and do any sort of workout every day. And I'm talking like running around the block. I can't imagine getting in the gym and having, serious, cause I'm sure it's spaced out and there's, workout routines, but just being consistent about that. Cause I imagine you have to be very consistent. I manage it's a lot of hard work, and I manage it's almost a full-time job in a lot of ways
It's exactly
to
what it
that.
was.
Yeah.
It was a
Yeah.
second job, and it's all consistency. And then, like I say to everybody, anybody can work out. Not everybody can diet for that amount of time
Yeah.
and be that disciplined to know exactly what calories you're taking in, how much fat, how much, all that in proteins, everything carbs. You gotta count everything out. It's a science.
Well, I will say this before moving on. This is the one thing that I feel like it's not anything I really knew, but as I'm talking to my son through his competitive journey, the two words that I keep repeating the most to him, not even on purpose, they just keep coming out, is discipline and consistency.
Yep.
He hates it, but it's just like every conversation is about discipline. You have to be disciplined and you have to be consistent. And that's
Yeah.
basically it. And if you can do that, now there's a lot more to it to be successful at something, but to get yourself to that level to be successful, you have to be disciplined and consistent in that discipline. So, Deren, that's incredible. That's just a really interesting background with the softball and the bodybuilding. But let's talk a little bit about technology and your roles as CIO. So you've been in technology leadership for more than 2 decades. You're now the CIO and VP of IT at Ward Electric. You've also been recognized just recently. You were a multi-time finalist for Colorado CIO of the Year, but just recently you won CIO of the Year. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Deren, as Deren's been saying, he works very hard. Softball is the thing that he does. He wants to win championships. Bodybuilding is the thing that he does. He wants to win. CIO is the thing that he does. He has to win a CIO of the Year award.
Go all in, right? Go all in.
Yeah, exactly. We won't remind everyone, Deren, that I am a 4-time loser of that same award. It's almost appropriate that I have these Buffalo Bills helmets behind.
I was just going to say, with the Bills helmets behind you, boy, I love losing Super Bowls.
Yeah, it's almost like it was predetermined. It's almost like I had no chance. Like it was just, that was the way it was going to be. So can you first tell us a little about your role at Ward? What type of company is Ward? We haven't gotten into that yet. And just about your journey to become a CIO. And then we'll jump into some questions about mobility and IoT.
Yeah, that works. Yeah, so definitely not your normal background to get to the CIO role. I never was interested in computers at all when I was in high school. I was going to go into the union, just like my family. My whole family is in the union in Verizon in New York. So I never thought about college because I knew I was just going to go in the union and do what my brother and my father and cousins do over at Verizon. And that's working in the union outside as a lineman. But when I went to White Rock Construction, which was a subcontractor, and I was digging telephone pole holes with a jackhammer in 8-degree weather in a monkey suit, it wasn't really appealing at the time. So I decided to take this course, which was a beginner technology course for computers. Went there, it was a 6-month course you took, and you got a certificate of achievement at the end. Got out of there, got my first job at IBM as a contractor for help desk position. Worked my way through help desk, and just like we were saying, everything, right? You want to be the best that you can be. So I started off as help desk, went to desktop support. From desktop support, went to networking. From networking, I was the desktop manager. From desktop manager, I went to IT director. Then I went to vice president, and now I am the CIO over at Ward Electric Company. So it's been a journey, which I actually liked because I learned almost all aspects of IT along the way and have touched on almost all of them. So for me, when I sit with my guys, I can tell them that I was in their shoes and really relate to some of the things that they're doing because I did it along my journey as well. So a little bit
I,
different of a background.
I really think that it's important. When I was kind of early as a CIO, I was a pretty young CIO when I first started, and so I'd go to conferences and speak, and I'd get a lot of questions. So, hey, tell us about your journey from younger guys in technology. How'd you become a CIO? And I would just say that that story you just told is really impactful, and I think it's important for young technologists, people getting into technology that want to be a technology leader someday, to listen to this and to that, and to understand that. And mine is very similar. It was, I started at the bottom. It was a lot of hard work. I learned a lot in a very short period of time, but I just worked harder than everybody else. I mean,
Yeah, and that's what it is.
that's basically just really put in the time. Like, I was working 80, 90 hours a week when everyone else was working 40. So I caught up pretty quick. Right. And I think
Yep.
that's important. Um, what would you say that you think some of the key traits of being a great CIO is, based on your experience of becoming a CIO?
I mean, I learned and I had a great mentor. His name was Bill Hurley, which I know same last name spelled different, but great guy. He
Not related.
was not related, not related, even though everyone thought I was his son at the
That's
company.
funny.
But he was amazing. He was a guy that you could go into his office and you could talk to him. He wasn't somebody that you couldn't approach, that you felt uncomfortable approaching. I went in there, I was doing desktop support for that company for over I think over 6 years at the time, and said to him, I wanted to do something else. And he said, well, I don't want to lose a good employee, Deren. So what do we have to do to keep you? And what would interest you to move you? And I said, mobility at that time was
Oh,
something
really?
it was when iPhones were starting to come out. Tablets have just started to hit the market. It
Good
was the
segue into the
future. Good
conversation.
segue into the conversation, right? A good MDMs were just starting to pop in. So I felt like it was the future of a lot of things. So I went into that. I took over the whole entire mobility account. I got into networking and switching. But without his leadership and guidance, or even being the person that he was to notice that he had a good employee that he didn't want to lose, he knew I wasn't happy in the role anymore. I didn't want to do desktop support anymore. So I guess along the way, I've had some very good managers and I've had some very bad ones. And what I try to do is take all the good traits along the way, just like your football coaches, just like your baseball coaches. You take all those good traits away from those people, and you try to make them better. And that's what I've always found to help me is I relate to my guys. I was in their position, and I try to constantly improve. I take their feedback and try to give them the leadership and the guidance that they need. A lot of about this role is leadership and building those
That's
leaders
it.
for the future.
And I would add
It's
to
what it
that
is.
I think it's important. Like, sometimes you get in a situation where you don't have a great leader. So what I did in those situations, I said, hey, I want to be this leader someday. Here are some of the things that this guy's doing that I'm not gonna do. And you know what
Yes.
the funny part is, dude? Some of those have stuck with me far beyond some of the good traits that I learned. Now, the good traits are become more subconscious, whereas some of the negative traits that negatively impact me, those are the ones I kind of remember the most. And I think that's just how it is. But really great points. Appreciate you sharing that. Now, you brought up mobility, so let's kind of dive into, if you joined or you clicked on this to actually learn about mobility and not bodybuilding or softball, then we're going to jump into that right now. So, at Ward Electric, your teams are working in some really remote areas. of the country, places where cell service is spotty or even non-existent, I think you shared with me. So connectivity isn't just convenience, it's mission critical. So how are you at Ward using mobility and connectivity tools today to support those crews in the field? And once you answer that, how do you see new technologies like satellite-based systems like Starlink, et cetera, changing what's possible for your operation in the future?
Yeah. So for us, when we're in the field, it's connectivity isn't a nice to have. It's a must have. It's mission critical, like you said, for us, for our safety, our coordination, and our operational connectivity. There's a lot of things that we use right now. So right now we have cradle point mobility solutions. We have mobile Starlink units that we deploy for some of the crews or some of the locations. FirstNet, we do a lot of storm work. So if there's natural disasters that are happening across the country, we'll send guys out there to help bring power back.
Oh, so if there's a
FirstNet,
storm out in Florida, you'll send crews to do some of that emergency work. Is it FEMA?
yeah,
Is it part of like FEMA stuff?
yeah. Depends on what the storm is, right? But yes, yeah, we'll send crews out there to help bring power back faster. So one of the other things I brought in was a first responder program through AT&T called FirstNet. They would deploy satellite, or I should say trucks, with basically pop-up cell towers so we can connect to those, because there's no service. If there's no power and the power lines are down, a lot of times there's no mobility when you get there. So FirstNet would send these mobile trucks and boom up these, radio antennas and give us mobility. So those are some of the things that we're using right now to help with that. And then some of the things in the future, we just signed a deal with T-Mobile. T-Mobile is now partnering with Starlink, and Starlink is going to soon have voice and data onto your phones. So for us, that's going to be a game changer. So we'll be out in the field and we'll be able to, if there's no mobile service on your phone, cut over to Starlink to be able to use voice and data.
Oh,
And
so does it do the cutover automatically?
it does. It just cuts over automatically.
Now, is all the cell phone companies going to have that, or is it certain devices? You can do that on an iPhone. You can do that on. How does that's cool. I didn't even know about that.
Yeah. So AT&T, Verizon are all looking into partnering with another company, and T-Mobile obviously partner with Starlink. And for me, Starlink's a proven solution. I just went across country for my son who races dirt bikes, and we took one of those mobile mini Starlinks, connected it to the sunroof in my truck, and we drove from Colorado to New York, and I never lost any connection to the internet the whole entire way. So Starlink
But
has
they
the
have
proven
that for cell
satellites and the
phones as well,
infrastructure.
then?
Yep, it's coming for cell phones. Yep.
So it's in
Yep.
so it cuts over to Starlink if you lose cell phone reception, essentially.
Correct. And right now, what they're doing is there's some apps that are like WhatsApp and some of these other apps that you can do it with. But in the future, very soon future, you're going to be able to do voice and data with Microsoft apps, make phone calls and do all that stuff using it. And I know Elon Musk, which I'm sure you've probably read by now, is coming out with his own mobile phone.
Yeah, I saw
And that mobile phone is only going to run off the Starlink platform. So you have to be able to do voice and data if he's going to be promoting that phone.
A phone also that can handle what you're describing as well.
Correct. And it won't have a mobility provider. It won't have Verizon. It won't have T-Mobile. He will be his own provider off Starlink.
Wow. That's pretty incredible. It's amazing how much the technology is changing in that mobility space. So now mobility is only one part of the story. IoT and connected devices, like I believe you guys use iPads in the fields and so on, are creating a new level of visibility across operations. For a company like Ward, that can mean smarter assets, predictive maintenance, and even better decision making, I assume. So how is IoT changing the way your teams manage equipment, monitor performance, and make data-driven decisions? How are you using this mobile technology in the field?
So when I joined Word Electric 5 years ago, I moved us fully cloud-based through Microsoft. So as long as we have an internet connection, like you're saying, right? IoT, as long as we have an internet connection, we're able to get all of our data to our people in the fields. We are obviously very mobile heavy with everybody being out in the field doing the work. So it gives us real time visibility into the field like never before. By connecting the equipment, the vehicles, and the key infrastructure to our network, we can perform real time health assets and everything, mobile trucks, everything can go through as long as we have an internet connection. So Starlink bringing us that is a game changer for us in the field. This shift allows our team to move in a react to a proactive solution. Using live data to predict maintenance needs, perform breakdowns occur, improve asset utilization, and make things faster, smarter, and better operational decisions for the company.
And I assume that integrates with all your platform technologies as well within the cloud. And I assume that the security and data governance is a lot better in these distributed this environment with what you're discussing as well.
Yes, because so being fully cloud based, I don't have to manage the server. I don't have to manage the things that are, the patching, the upgrading, and the fixing of the servers. Microsoft is doing all that for me, right? So you're taking that out of it. You're taking out the maintenance of the servers, having to keep them up to date. It helps with disaster recovery because now you have all of your servers that Microsoft has across the country. So that's a big part of it too.
Deren, when we look ahead, mobility and IoT are, I think, going to get even crazier. And you and I were even talking about this with how you could use AI, like how your teams could use them out in the field to like take pictures of the telephone of the poles and be able to do diagnostics that other people, that's done manually today, right? Given that you have AI and edge computing and the field teams are smarter insights and more autonomy, what excites you most about where mobility and these technologies are headed? And how do you see advancements shaping the future of field operations like the work at Ward?
For Ward, it means that there's the fields, we will have real-time intelligence in their hands, from predictive maintenance alerts to safety insight, allowing them to make smarter calls on the spot.
Do you think that sorry to cut you off. Do you think that because obviously one of the big things about what they're doing in the field is, they're up on live wires, right? This is a serious job. You make a mistake, you die. Right.
Yeah.
And do you think that this I cut you off just to say, do you think that this technology helps the foreman on site to increase safety and make sure they're making better decisions to keep people safer?
I think that with that, yes. So there's two parts to that too, right? So we're working on a pole analyzer AI project at the moment. So that being said, instead of the general foreman constantly having to do all these different things because of that AI, and we can have a regular person go to this job site, take pictures of the utility poles, analyze the pole, drop that into AI, and give us some information that we're looking for. That general foreman can now focus more on his crews and the safety, like you're saying, to make sure everyone's doing things
through a book trying to identify the pole. I got you.
Correct. So he can spend more time on the things that are more important, like cruise safety, than sitting there with his head inside of a book or sitting on an iPad
at the truck,
because he's trying to figure all this out at the truck.
Yeah.
Correct. So now we can have a regular person there who doesn't even have to know anything about those poles to use this AI analyzer that could tell you everything that's going on in that pole.
I think that's where, to me, being a layperson in this space, is that where obviously technology can help create a safer environment for the worker, right? And I think that's a huge plus. Obviously, technology brings efficiencies and kind of cool ways to collect data and use data and that type of stuff. But being able to improve safety, like you just discussed, is huge as well. Especially some environments, it doesn't matter, right? I was a CIO of a mortgage company, right? Like, no one's gonna die from a bad mortgage, right?
Yeah.
But something goes wrong up there, it doesn't work out very well.
Well, and the
So
biggest thing to say to that too, right, is these foremen and general foremen and lineman guys, they didn't go through their careers to be an IT guy, right? We're
yeah,
trying to get them off their devices as much as possible to focus on
that's
the
right.
jobs that they were hired to do. And that's build power lines, build substations, and do that kind of work. So the less that they're on their iPads and their iPhones, the better it is for the crews, the safety, and for them. They want to build power lines. They don't want to play with iPads. We joke all the time. They told me that they did not get hired to game on their iPads when when they talk to us.
And just that that explains to me a lot about who you are as a CIO, understanding your customer, right? Understanding what they need to be successful. This is an important part of being a chief information officer, is knowing your customer and responding to that. Your guys want to be, you have to use technology to do the job, obviously, but to make it as an enabler and using it in a way that it doesn't cause them a burden is really important. So that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that with us, Deren. Now, one last fun question before we wrap up. This is the Tech Quarterback Show, and we talked about sports, but I have to ask, as I do every show, who is your favorite quarterback, past or present, professional, high school, little league, college? Who is Deren Hurlie's favorite quarterback?
Well, I have two right now that I'm cheering a lot for. One is Jackson Dart, and I'm super excited about him coming to the Giants. And the other one I cheer for all the
Scataboo!
time is your son. That's
And
the
my
other
son.
quarterback. That's the other
All
quarterback
right.
I'm cheering for all the time. I love all the updates. I love all the stories. I think you said he had 4 touchdown passes recently.
Yeah,
So
three,
those are
but
the
yeah.
two guys, three. There you go. So those are the two guys that I cheer for right now.
Yeah, well, that's great. I think Jackson Dart's a little bit ahead of Connor Chapman, but you never know.
You don't know. You don't
If
know.
you're disciplined and consistent, you can be successful just like that
Yeah. Hey,
Jackson Dart.
put in the hard work,
I'm
right? That's where
surprised you
we got
didn't
it
like
from.
just skip the whole thing and go Cam Scataboo.
I mean, I was gonna give a scataboo yell, but I'm at work right now. I think everybody would hear me.
Is Cam Scataboo the new Gronk of the NFL, Deren?
I mean, is he the new Gronk or is he
What I mean by
the
that is
guy
the
from?
new big personality that everybody is attracted to.
I mean, 110%.
Yeah,
Plus, he's
yeah,
just a hard nosed, old school guy that wants the hit. He's not avoiding the hits. He
yeah.
wants the hits.
That's
So it's
right.
exciting to
That
watch.
that gives a lot of guys that watch football 20, 30 years ago, like us, go, this is what I
Yes.
remember.
He reminds me of a Mike Allstott, right?
Yeah,
That
there
guy
you go.
didn't shy away from
Christian
the hits.
Okoye, do you remember him?
Yes, they
Yeah, there.
delivered the hits. The Nigerian Nightmare. They
Yeah,
delivered the hits.
yeah. You wouldn't want to mess with those guys. Well, Deren, thank you again for joining us today and sharing your journey from semi-professional softball to bodybuilding to being a CIO and how you're using technology at Ward Electric. Your perspective on mobility has been awesome, and we really appreciate it. And to our audience, thanks for tuning in, and be sure to subscribe, share your feedback, and join us next time. Until then, I'm Brent Chapman, and this has been the Tech Quarterback Show. Peace.